Greetings Game Watchers, I'm Chris Capel and welcome to Force Friday. It's just 104 days until the launch of Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens, and all the juicy brand new merchandise, toys, lunchboxes, flamethrowers etc. are now on shops' shelves at last. So in between popping down to our local Toys R Us, we thought this would make a fine excuse to list the best Star Wars games on PC ever, so we have. We'll first be doing an unnumbered list of the good but not great Star Wars games, before we get to the top 7 greatest Star Wars games ever. Right, let's begin.
Very impressive, General. The Emperor will be most pleased. Continue with your project.
Galactic Battlegrounds. For the third attempt by LucasArts to make a strategy game in a galaxy far, far away, they basically went, let's just wholesale copy Age of Empires. And lo, Galactic Battlegrounds was born. I'm not exaggerating either, the game was a straight up mod of Age of Empires 2. This ultimately leads to a very fun game of course, but one with quite a few quirks. For example, Gungans as a faction are technologically on par with the Galactic Empire. Jedi can convert enemy units to their side as if they were monks, and worker droids require food. Worth playing for sure, but don't expect something wildly imaginative. Episode 1 Racer. There are two good things that came out of The Phantom Menace, Darth Maul and this game. Episode 1 Racer succeeds where the movie failed, in that it's actually fun. LucasArts nailed exactly what players want from a futuristic Wipeout F-Zero style racing game, which equals speed, tight controls and simplicity. Don't go over the top with heavy weaponry or silly level design, just make the cars, pod racers, fast and the tracks fun to shoot around. Racer was exactly this. It may be very basic and it must be the only Star Wars game ever to have boring music, but it's fun. And at the end of the day, what more could you ask for? Rebellion, or Supremacy. The first attempt at creating a real-time strategy game in the Star Wars universe, this time inspired by Master of Orion, has received something of a renaissance. At the time, this was utterly hated. Critics lambasted the lack of ground missions, the ugly graphics even for 1998, and the confusing interface. Look at the player reviews on GOG now however, and you'll see nothing but glowing reports. Despite the problems, the three most important parts to make this rebellion endure are present: the strategy, the deepness of the gameplay, and the love of Star Wars. If you want a Star Wars 4X strategy, you should be pleased with it. Battlefront 1 and 2. For many gamers, the Battlefront series is Star Wars. The first game successfully converted the Battlefield formula into the Star Wars universe, and Battlefront 2 expanded it beyond all imagination, introducing a cool campaign, special heroes characters themed for each map, including the likes of Yoda and the Emperor, maps from all the movies, and space combat. It's no wonder to us why people are complaining about the lower amount of features in EA's new Battlefront when Battlefront 2 gave fans so much. So why it isn't on the great list? Quite simply, it's very difficult to get working online anymore, and that's a big deal for an online multiplayer shooter. Oh well, we've still got Game Ranger. And the new game by DICE of course. Will it make it to this list? We'll find out in November. Rogue Squadron 3D. The Rogue Squadron series was a spin-off from Factor 5's own Shadows of the Empire, whose first level flying around on Hoth was received so much better than the rest of the game that LucasArts asked Factor 5 to make a new game entirely based around it. Without doubt one of the finest Star Wars games of all time is Rogue Squadron 2 Rogue Leader, the gorgeous arcadey flying shooter that allowed gamers to visit every battle and planet in a classic trilogy. Unfortunately, we don't have that on PC. No, Dolphin doesn't count, so we have to make do with the first in the Rogue Squadron series, which simply isn't as good. However, while the graphics have aged, it's all still incredibly fun and addictive, and the tight controls, great sense of challenge and classic setting rates it far higher than the OK Starfighter. The Force Unleashed. Do you ever get the feeling you're about to be lynched by a raging mob of 4X strategy fans? I do now, after putting The Force Unleashed here, especially considering the lacklustre port and the atrocious sequel, which I'm pointedly not including as part of this entry. While undoubtedly not a great game, with its poor camera, ridiculous rollercoaster of a difficulty curve and that sodding Star Destroyer bit, The Force Unleashed gets so high for one reason. It's a big budget, interestingly written, near-canon Star Wars story, and the only reason it's not canon is because of the aforementioned awful sequel. It still bags of fun, prominently features Darth Vader, and tells a proper story that feels like a movie. Most of the other games on this list feel like great games, but The Force Unleashed feels like Star Wars, and that's why it's here. Seriously, f*** that camera though. Dark Forces. I debated long and hard with myself whether to put this over the next game in the list, bumping it to the hallowed Greatest Star Wars Games Ever section, but I just couldn't quite do it. While Dark Forces has some fantastic level design, a fun storyline, levels filled with secrets that you'll miss unless you go exploring, and a focus on pure FPS gameplay without all that Jedi stuff, it just has too many quirks now to recommend. No mid-level saving, even Doom has that, no look up down on mouse look, and it's difficult to get looking nice. It's still great, but I struggle to recommend playing it now unless you're really committed and really nostalgic. And now, ladies and gentlemen, in honour of the imminent release of Episode 7, we present the top 7 greatest Star Wars games on PC ever!
You never planned to destroy the Emperor.
Not with you, no.
You assumed no force could challenge you. Finally, we have returned.
Number 7. The Old Republic. I realise this is a controversial choice, and I see that lynch mob is coming back in my direction. Yes, it's very much a typical WoW style MMO, and yes, everyone, including EA and BioWare, would have preferred a straight offline sequel to a series further up this list. Nevertheless, the sheer scope, breadth and content of the Old Republic dwarfs any game here. Play as Jedi, Sith, Stormtroopers, bounty hunters or Han Solos of various races and genders, and freely explore giant worlds over the entire Star Wars universe. Take part in many epic stories, more of which are being added still 4 years later. Fight with a companion or in a group of players online. Most importantly, unlike the Elder Scrolls Online or many other MMOs, the game takes into account if you're in a group and alters conversations so that everyone gets involved. Finally, if you don't want to spend any money, you can play the entire game for free, and you'll be fine. Yes, it's a bit of a time sink, like any MMO, with too much wandering over unnecessarily big areas, but if I judged best on fun value for money, the Old Republic would win hands down. Number 6. LEGO Star Wars series. I still maintain that the LEGO games represent fanboy dream franchise games that fanboys refuse to acknowledge because of the LEGO thing. The Star Wars franchise represents the pinnacle of LEGO perfection. In the complete saga you can play through all 6 movies and see them perfectly parodied without any of that modern voiceover nonsense, then collect every character in the entire saga. I couldn't care less about unlocking Amanda Kirby or Nick Van Owen in LEGO Jurassic World, but I'd walk through fire to get hold of Yak Face or Nien Nunb to play, and if you still fancy more, there's the Clone Wars to play through, which is more advanced and still just as good humoured. They're all pure fun for all ages, and isn't that exactly what Star Wars is about?
Contact the bounty hunter, Boba Fett.
Yes, Lord Vader.
What do you need?
The Empire is willing to pay a considerable fee for disposing of defenses orbiting Ilum.
Is my target one of the filthy pirates in that sector?
Your target is the defenses. The Imperial fleet will take care of the rest.
Number 5. Empire at War. Ah, now we've got the fans back. After so many false starts in trying to create a Star Wars RTS, LucasArts looked to the ex-Westward development team at Terraglyph to finally get it right. And they did! Empire at War has the Rebellion and Empire going at it for the future of the galaxy, giving the player control over many different types of units, including specials like Darth Vader, in epic land and space battles. The land battles were tough and tactical, but admittedly a little confined, but the space battles were amazing. The ability to target different areas of starbases for different effects, like destroying hangars to stop fighters from harassing you, was a stroke of genius. The action cam was useless but beautiful, and if you played as the Empire, you could fire the Death Star once you built it and wipe out the entire planet. You even get to flip the switch yourself.
Join Delta Squad. Delta 40, your foundation. A pure and uncomplicated soldier. 6-2, the heart and soul of your team. And 07, the fiercest hunter of all your brothers. You are each a piece of a whole person, and the Republic will call you to defend and give your lives if need be.
Number 4, Republic Commando. Finally, a prequel trilogy game that's actually great. Republic Commando shows a grittier version of Star Wars from a soldier's point of view. Set during the Clone Wars and leading right from Geonosis to the initial invasion of Kashyyyk, the fans know what we're talking about. This shooter offered a cool style, great and challenging gunplay, immersive level design, and then just when you think it can't get any better, LucasArts unleashes the showpiece, Squad Command. Using a simple, intuitive interface, players can easily order fellow commanders Fixer, Scorch and Sev to do certain actions, and impressively, the correct one would always follow the right order. For example, Scorch would blow up a door, whereas Fixer would simply hack it quietly. Republic Commando was amazingly designed, innovative and incredibly fun. I'm still heartbroken the planned sequel Imperial Commando never happened. Curse you, LucasArts management! Number 3, X-Wing and TIE Fighter series. There are plenty of people who hold the 4 X-Wing games as still the greatest space combat sims of all time. At GameWatcher, we call those types of people correct. The sheer recognisability of the ships and the epic music take the games a long way, but the wonderful missions, perfect controls, uncluttered interface, depth of combat and satisfying game progression take it to the top of the class. Even still looks pretty good today. X-Wing Alliance may be the most up-to-date, but most cite TIE Fighter as the series pinnacle, mostly because it's fun to be the bad guy. Oh, and evil blue red-eyed Sherlock, aka Grand Admiral Thrawn's in it, making it the best thing ever.
I hesitate. Strike me down.
In time, Ron. First, I need something from you.
Number 2, Jedi Knight series. While Dark Forces 2 in name, the continuing adventures of Kyle Katarn changed forever the moment he picked up his father's lightsaber. And while some were sad the purity of the Dark Forces gameplay was abandoned, what came out was the best series of Jedi simulators LucasArts would ever release. Some may have better stories or higher production values, but none offer better lightsaber combat or a satisfying range of force powers. Furthermore, the level design was consistently amazing with some wonderful use of verticality. It's debatable which game in the series is better. Jedi Knight has FMV cutscenes and generally better designed levels, but now looks ancient and its lightsaber combat is pretty poor in comparison to the others. Jedi Outcast is probably the best overall in terms of story, combat and graphics, but you can't turn to the dark side, some of the level design is questionable, and that stealth section is awful. Jedi Academy on the other hand has a wider range of levels, a player-created protagonist, and none of the silly level design of Outcast, but the disjointed story and lack of satisfying level flow holds it back. All great games, but in the end, their minor imperfections held them back from the top spot. Which goes to...
Darth Malak.
Down you go!
I hope you weren't thinking of leaving so soon, Bastila. I've spent far too much energy hunting down you and your companions to let you get away from me now.
Number 1, Knights of the Old Republic series. It was a close one between Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2 and the Jedi Knight series, especially as the combat is infinitely more satisfying in the latter, but for the overall experience, KOTOR feels most like you're playing through a proper epic Star Wars story. The games abandon the timeline of the movies and yet are infinitely more Star Wars-y than the prequels. The first game features an embattled Republic desperately holding out against the evil Sith Empire led by the despicable Darth Malak, and the destruction of Taris is just simply shocking, with the wonderful twist halfway through challenging I Am Your Father for the biggest gut punch of the franchise. Furthermore, the superb range of characters illustrate BioWare at their best, and the whole thing feels like an epic fight for the galaxy.
Awaken.
Obsidian's sequel may have a rushed ending, but the companions are arguably better, while the story gleefully takes Star Wars cliches apart and challenges player presumptions, like how the elderly Force mentor is actually the main villain. Oh, the Steam version of Kotor 2 has just been patched apparently, to incorporate the fan-made restored content mod, so the full story can now be played exclusively on PC. Together, the Knights of the Old Republic games represent Star Wars games at their best, and if they don't get a remake, proper sequel, or anthology movie in the next few years, I'll bend my Wookiee. Well, there you have it folks, the best Star Wars games in the galaxy we call PC. How many do you own? And how many will you be buying or playing between now and December 18th? For me, the answer to both questions is all of them. Leave a comment below with your own opinions on the list. Just none of that poodoo talk. I've been Chris Capel, and remember, GameWatcher will be with you always. Thanks for watching again, guys. You can help us out by subscribing to our YouTube channel, checking out our Twitter feed, and of course visiting GameWatcher.com for all your PC gaming needs.